Hey everyone, welcome to this full moon Sidereal astrology forecast for the full moon on Thursday, June 24th, 2021. All right, so we have a full moon in expansive Sagittarius. If you were expecting me to say Capricorn just then, be sure to check out the link down below for more information. We are using the visible sky on this channel called True Sidereal Astrology, and it does change the signs from mainstream astrology. All right, so Sagittarius the Centaur, the half horse, half human. It's all about reintegrating the healing energy. Approaching the full moon, we'll have a lot of energy in Scorpio and Ophiuchus, which is all about going into the cocoon and doing some of that deeper work. But as a result of that, after Ophiuchus, after the galactic center, comes the transformed Sagittarius, which is about expanding our perception on life. So really good to get into that open mind, that adventurousness, that spiritedness, listening to that spirit for life, what excites us, what guides us, and connecting to that higher source, if you will. Very good to do with this full moon here. So full moons are all about status check. It's good to see how things have been going the past 2 weeks with this eclipse cycle. This lunar cycle started with a solar eclipse. And so it has been a very transformative month. Good to see how we can empower ourselves to pursue our life path and make some of those transformations. But now with the full moon, it's good to do a status check. How is that free-spirited side going? And how can we further develop it moving forward? There's no major aspects with the full moon. We do have a sextile to the ruler of Sag, Jupiter, who's retrograde in Aquarius. So it is good to be open-minded about the future. Maybe even the world, some of these collective things, the future ideals, future visions, very good to be open-minded about. We do have some support with that. And of course, with all full moons, it's good to balance energy. So with the sun in practical Gemini, it's good to expand that Sagittarius perspective, but also maintain groundedness in the practical life, and being willing to learn and being interested is always a good way of working with that. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the chart for the full moon. So the exact time of the full moon will be at 14:14 Eastern time of the Americas on Thursday, June 24th. But for all intents and purposes, it will be the days surrounding Thursday here. And as you can see here on the chart, the constellations are different sizes. This is very different from mainstream astrology, and you will notice a lot of the signs are different. A good example is that mainstream might say that the full moon's in Capricorn, but in fact, if you do look up at the visible sky, you'll see it right at the beginning of Sagittarius the Centaur. All right, so it's a quite straightforward full moon, not a whole lot going on with it. It's just a sextile up to Jupiter, of course, the opposition up to the sun. But it is a very important month because it is an eclipse month. This lunar cycle 2 weeks ago started with a solar eclipse, which is all about making transformations and changes towards our life path, and really for the next 6 months and really for the next year in the eclipse solar cycle. So still good to do that, still good to see if there are some things that we can empower ourselves with, to try new things with, to make some shifts and changes for the remainder of the year at the very least. But Sagittarius, the Centaur, is all about connecting to that free-spirited side of ourselves. This is seen in the constellation of being the half horse, half human, and pointing that bow and arrow. And the bow and arrow is pointing to the galactic center, which is at the very end of Ophiuchus, which is very symbolic for the fact that this part of the chart is in very many ways the beginning of the chart, because the galactic center is the transformative energy. And so when things end, which usually is the case as we go through that deeper energy approaching Sag, so the past couple days, if you've noticed a bit of deep energy, if you've been doing any healing, maybe some of that coming through with the relationships or interpersonal life with Venus opposite Pluto. But nonetheless, diving deep and doing shadow work, right? Ophiuchus and the galactic center is all about reintegrating the shadow and accepting and working with these deeper dimensions of self. But as a result of that, after the galactic center comes the metamorphosized Sagittarius, right? So that is you can see the sort of hybrid of the centaur is metamorphosized, has integrated both aspects of the human experience. The more primal, let's say, which is like Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, it's about reintegrating that more primal, more animal fundamental aspect of ourself, which is the horse, but also the human side, right? So integrating both the primal, but also the higher, right? And so this is what Sagittarius has done. It is already transformed. And so as a result of that transformation, usually it's a very free-spirited energy, right? We feel free, we've done the deeper work, we've done that healing, and we are feeling more expansive as a result of this. And that is the horse sort of analogy here, which is the free range, being open to listening to where our spirit is guiding us, but also our instincts are guiding us as well, right? And to open our mind to higher perspectives, which is the human side of it, to be open-minded and to point that bow and arrow towards some sort of purpose. Now, we usually during full moons do gain some awareness and some insight. So for a lot of us, it could be an awareness about our purpose, our life path, what is, again, gives us that sense of spirit, what might feel adventurous, because in order to expand these horizons, we do have to be willing to be adventurous, right? So it makes great for all kinds of, obviously, physical adventure, maybe walking, hikes, nature, maybe some travel, some of that free-spirited energy, literally. But fundamentally, Sagittarius is about mental and spiritual expansion. So it's a really good time of being open-minded and expanding our beliefs about life. And with the full moon, again, doing a status check and examining our own beliefs. What are our beliefs? Because our perspective on life and our beliefs about life really do manifest, not all the way. We do need some Capricorn energy to keep it grounded, but play a huge role in terms of manifesting our experiences, right? Whatever we believe, in many ways contributes to what we'll experience. So good to do that, to expand the perception, to be open-minded, to see things from different perspectives. It's the ruler of all things that are about abstract knowledge or higher knowledge, such as spirituality, philosophy, things like astrology, these things that give us a higher perspective on life. So good to do a status check with this. How is that both physical, free-spirited, and adventurous side of ourself going? And how can we further develop that? And how is that mental or spiritual expansion going? What are our beliefs? And how can we further expand those beliefs, gain higher knowledge, and sometimes even share that knowledge or wisdom with others, which Sagittarius is the ruler of gurus and professors and people who share that higher perspective on life. So expanding horizons is the fundamental with this, both literally and mentally / spiritually. Is really good to do a status check with. What intentions can we set for the remainder of the cycle for the next 2 weeks to further develop that free-spirited side of ourselves? So of course, with all full moons, we do need to find balance because the full moon is opposite the sun. And in this case, the sun is in very practical Gemini, which also deals a lot with mental energy and understanding and knowledge, but it is very much on the practical front. So while it is good to be abstract and be a free spirit, it's also, of course, important to maintain groundedness in the practical life, right? So first of all, with knowledge, what can be practically applied? Gemini is all about sort of the more rational or objective sort of views of things. So it's good to have that higher perspective and higher knowledge, but it's even better if it can be implemented, right, practically in our life. And also communicated in a way that's not just from the higher perspective, but in a way that everyone can relate to. Gemini is all about seeing eye to eye with others, being willing to learn and exchange and communicate, and to understand others' perspectives in order to share these higher knowledges. So it's a great time to also get into Gemini things, such as just picking up that book, doing some reading, maybe doing some writing. We often learn a lot during writing. And now that Mercury is direct, we likely will notice a lot more forward-moving energy with more of the practical aspects of our life, day-to-day life. And again, just good to be interested both interpersonally, socially, but also just personally through learning and gaining information and perhaps developing things like our communication skills in the process. So great to ground the abstract and the practical, all right, the free spirit and the everyday rational objective view of things keeps this full moon nice and grounded. So there's no major aspects with the full moon. We do have a sextile, which is a minor aspect up to Jupiter, but it is quite important because Jupiter is the ruler of Sag. Okay, And so Jupiter right now is retrograde. And so when it does come to the Sagittarius side of knowledge and beliefs, so again, the abstract knowledge and beliefs, it is good again to rethink, redo, see things from different perspectives, just be a bit flexible with that adventurous and free-spirited nature. But it is always good to experiment during retrograde times. Oftentimes, a lot of astrologers might say to not do things during a retrograde, but I find it to be the opposite. It's good to do things in the context of experimentation, of willing to make mistakes, set up a situation where we can learn, to make mistakes, to try new things, to experiment. And then it makes it a very good way of working with the retrograde period, because that's essentially what I believe is helping us do. But a nice sextile is supportive with this, and with Jupiter in Aquarius, it's all about future vision. And so I think one of the great areas of expanding our perception is about the future. Now, this can be our own future aspirations, our hopes and wishes for the future. Good to, again, expand those while we kind of look at that from different angles, but also for the world, all right? So collective or shared vision types of future ideals, so what we see for the world, for the future in that sense, also good to expand perception about. And Aquarius is the collective, so we're all playing a role, of course, in the collective future. And so each of us have a unique role to play in that. And so Aquarius is about connecting to that unique spark, that individual self-expression that is different and unique to the collective, that then contributes to the collective to induce change, right? Because if everything remains status quo, then there's never any real change. And so we're all here to introduce that unique spark to the greater whole. And so anything that is about individual self-expression, cultivating our different unorthodox selves, is great with this full moon as well. But fundamentally, focusing on our future ideals and those perceptions, and again, looking at that from different perspectives and expanding our beliefs about the future or the collective, I think is going to be a big emphasis of this full moon. All right, everyone, so that is the full moon in a nutshell. Again, very straightforward. As we do approach the full moon, we'll have, again, a lot of that deeper cocoon energy of Scorpio and Ophiuchus, the couple days approaching it. So it is good to do some of that deeper work, because as a result of that, of course, is the post-transformation of Sagittarius. Right now with the full moon, it is the heightened energy of the lunar cycle, and it's good to do a status check. How is that free-spirited side of ourselves going? Are we willing to expand our perception and view of life? Are we willing to listen to that spirit and adventurousness? And, utilizing the next 2 weeks at the very least, or even the next 6 months, to further develop that side of ourselves, to maintain groundedness in the practical everyday life through being interested in learning, to exchange both mentally through our own personal learning, but also interpersonally as well. And seeing that the area of future vision is one of the great areas of expanding that, while we sort of reflect or redo or experiment with some of that different energy. All right, so everyone, have a fantastic full moon. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to click that like button. If you're not yet an MTZ Insider, which is a free newsletter, and you're watching this on YouTube, do check out the link down below. It is a newsletter where you do get these full moon and new moon videos released first, as well as other content. But everyone have a great full moon. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.